We sent a national team after being promised sponsorship, and then the sponsor pulled out, which left us in heavy debt.
But do you not feel from a perspective that tournaments are becoming really expensive?
So ground costs have gone up across. There was this one particular ground where it was 10,000 rupees. We don't have access to that ground anymore. Grounds that we're getting now are 3x, 30,000 for a day. Some are 40,000 for a day.
Are you also deliberately trying to build up their corpus as well?
The IU wants to build a corpus. Like we should eventually, but right now we're trying to see if we can expand the team to be able to deliver more. And to do that, we're trying to see.
Many of you might not know this, but there is this sport called Ultimate Frisbee that I've been playing for the past 5-6 years. I've always been into sports. I've played cricket and football at a really high level as well. And now with Ultimate Frisbee as well, I'm playing at the highest level that you can. Now, when I started this podcast, Expert Talk with Bhavya Desai, I always wanted to do conversations around Frisbee as well. And that was something which was always on my mind. And then when I thought that if I have to do a first conversation surrounding Frisbee or the sport that I've really come to love so much since the past 5-6 years, then who should it be? Then I thought that, okay, the best people to actually talk to would be the governing body, which is India Ultimate. And let's speak to them to get an idea about where the sport is in India today. Now, if you are someone who's from the community, then in this podcast, I've tried to answer a lot of the questions that the community has. For example, why are tournaments becoming more expensive? Is there a better way that we can do things? If there is, what is the structure that this needs to have, and which is the future which is heading to? If you're not from the community, then I've also tried to create and give you an overall picture of how India Ultimate and the sport works and what are the actual governing things that are required. What is it needed for us to get recognized by the Sports Authority of India, by what you call the government. So I hope you like this. Of course, please, if you're from the community, please hit that subscribe button so that we can get more and more subscribers, so we can get more conversations on Frisbee. And I promise you, this is not the last conversation on Ultimate Frisbee on this platform. If you're not from the community and if you've been following our work, then please, if you've been watching it, do subscribe as usual. Follow us on Instagram yeah, see you in the next one. Hi, Alex.
Hi, Bhavya.
And welcome to Expert Talk with Bhavya Desai.
Yes, thanks for having me.
How are you feeling?
Excited.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Great. First ever podcast, I understand?
Yes, first video podcast. Yeah.
Nice. Okay. This is also actually incidentally my first ever ultimate conversation or a podcast.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So, as you know, of course, you obviously are at the helm of India Ultimate, which is the, I think formerly UPA, the Ultimate Players Association of India.
Yeah.
And everything which is kind of governed or the direction, the growth, the development that essentially needs to happen with Ultimate in India comes under India Ultimate.
That's correct. Yes. Yeah.
Perfect. And again, yeah, Ultimate is something which has become a really integral part of my life as well now, because of playing Ultimate since I think 6-7 years. And I know that you've been playing for a very long time.
Yeah.
You've been part of this community for a very long time as well. How long have you been?
I think this year it would be 13 years since I first started playing. Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, it's been a while.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. So super excited because, as I said, that whenever there's any conversation which is always very close to your heart or something which you are very keenly following, and also because it's sports, it just automatically becomes so much more exciting, and you just tend to look forward to it a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. So first up, I just kind of wanted to get an idea that from a narrative perspective, I kind of wanted to break down the conversation into like two aspects.
Okay.
One aspect, of course, I really want to touch upon the growth, development, where India is on the map, you know, in terms of structure, what are we kind of looking at, where are we at in all of our opportunities and all of those things. And then I also kind of want to talk a little bit about like some of the pressing and challenging issues. I won't say issues, but topics, something which probably gives the community as a much larger platform to address both from both perspectives, the perspective of maybe as a player, as someone who's in the community, and also, of course, coming from IU, so that it gives that much of clarity to the to all the players in the community as well.
Yeah, would love to. Yeah.
Yeah, great.
Sounds good.
So first up, I mean, let's just talk about. So what is currently like the IU structure? Can you tell us about that?
So, right from the beginning, from when it was UPI to now the Flying Disc Federation, we have an elected board. We have 4 elected board members who is the top tier, like they are on top, which right now is Pundri as our president, Vardhan vice president, Advitya as treasurer, and Aditi as secretary. Right. 2 of them are from Mumbai Ultimate, from what I understand. Yeah. So under them is the rest of they are volunteer positions, all ultimate players, and bringing their experiences and expertise from specific fields to help grow the community. Under them, we have our employee structure, where you have me as the current CEO, and we have 2 ops folks under me. We've got Madhu and Anand, and we've got 1 communications person, Hina, that makes our current operational staff. We have an accountant who we have onboarded this year for the first time, Ranjit as well, on our staff, and rest of the operations of India Ultimate goes into committees,
Subcommittee,
right? Into subcommittees, which are all volunteer run. So it's a very passionate community that we have, and a lot of them have put forward their efforts and time to help grow the community. And we have broken them into multiple committees. We've got a competitions committee which takes care of our domestic competition, which you yourself are part of.
Yes.
We've got our national team committee, which takes care of our national team programs to send our teams for international competitions. We've got our spirit committee, SOTG committee. We've got our development committee. We've got we're building, trying to rebuild our communications committee. We've got a coaching committee which takes care of making curriculums and getting more coaches in the country. We've got a college committee which reaches out to different colleges, try to grow ultimate at grassroots level in colleges, conduct our national college ultimate championships. We've got a school committee which we have revived now, which is trying to establish new partnerships to enter schools and teach ultimate as well. So
interesting.
I don't think I've missed any committees, but broadly these are our committees.
So, but in terms of are we registered as an association, as a non-profit, or is it as how are we registered in that?
So we are a Section 8 company.
Okay.
A non-profit in that. We have our ATG certificate and 12A certificate to receive CSR funds for tax benefits as well. But that is our current structure.
Got it. Is there a plan to move to a different structure that largely will remain the structure as a sports body?
That will remain the structure as a sports body.
Understand. Yeah. And inside of that, like how is that governed? Like usually committees and all of those things or associations are kind of governed with like internal bylaws and all of those things. Are those things also in place?
Yeah.
This is just for my understanding.
So we have our current set of bylaws, which we, when FTSFI was set up 4 years ago, if I'm mistaken, which we are governed by. We are currently in the process of amending a few of those. We have onboarded a legal counsel who is a sports lawyer and helping us amend our bylaws and our constitution to reflect with the National Sports Code. So this year, in the past few months, it's always been our dream, right? It's always been one of our dreams was to get nationally recognized by the government and thereby get the benefits of it and also grow the sport along with it. But Ultimate in India was a volunteer-run organization. Like until a couple of years back, we didn't have any employees who could give have focused work, right? So everybody was doing this outside of the work or college that they were, which was taking up their primary time, primary space. So the focus on getting nationally recognized, while it was always a goal, it couldn't get the amount of effort that it needed. And there is a lot of work to get this done. We need to have ultimate in 22 states in the country, right? So when it's being a volunteer-run organization, we are currently our focus was to look at our current needs of the community, which would be domestic competition and national teams, right? Sending them for international tournaments. So the amount of bandwidth available was limited to go beyond it, which is when I think 4 years ago, under Meghna's, known as our ex-president, under her EB, we got our first COO, Mrinalini, who is no longer working with us in India Ultimate. She was our first employee. Along with her, there was 2 others who came on board, and we slowly started making Ultimate a little more professional. So we have now come into a space where we have a couple of employees in India Ultimate, where we can have some focused growth as well. That's the plan as of now. There is some amount of shift also that has happened. Ultimate was, like I said, primarily a volunteer-run organization, and the volunteers did everything. But now everyone feels like, hey, there are employees who can take care of few of the things, and hence the number of people who are volunteering have also reduced to a certain extent. But we are prioritizing state registrations as one of the things that we want to focus on in this next 36 months. Sorry, not 36 months, 18 months. So we have our presence across multiple states now, thanks to Ultimate having grown organically in a few places, and there has been some focused growth with NGOs in few states.
Yes.
So this year, with our legal team now coming in with this new constitution and amendments, it'll be something that we'll be presenting to the community next month. We'll be calling an AGM at a nationals that's going to be happening in Bangalore, and present this plan and the changes that will come with it as well. And it would require the effort of the community to come back like how we used to work a few years ago to make this happen, because we would want the community to come back to help with some of the domestic competition, so that the current ops can focus on getting to states, establishing state bodies, and then in turn getting nationally recognized.
Understand. So I mean, there are a lot of layers actually that we require peeling, because there's so many things that you spoke about, but surely I want to address, but especially like, for example, competitions, the community and all of those things. But you mentioned that you've obviously gotten legal counsel now, who's obviously helping you frame that ecosystem in that respect for the bylaws. Is there a timeline set for that to get done?
So we are supposed to get the amended constitution this week, is the timeline that we have, which is why we want to present it in our coming nationals. So the first week of March to the second week of March is when we want to have a meeting with all the state leads. We already started work a month ago, reaching out to non-established states to see where they currently are in terms of their elected boards. TNFTA, the Tamil Nadu board, just had their election last week and have a newly constituted board there. We will be having new boards formed in Karnataka, Maharashtra, Gujarat and Delhi also this year. All of these boards have either not yet been set up or have finished, are coming to an end of their term. And these are our established states. So with these states is one part, and the second part is we have NGO run Ultimate in few states, and we are reaching out to those NGOs over the span of next 2 weeks to set the context and have a meeting.
See, those can also be registered essentially. But tell me, Why is this important for Indian Ultimate, for these states to be registered?
So, as per the sports code, we need to have 22 registered states who come under the national body. That gives us credibility to get recognition from MIAS and SAI.
Got you.
So this is our primary goal right now, because once that happens, we can then look for government grants to help grow the sport. Then our dependency on player funded organization will be lesser, and we'll go more into a government funded organization and with government grants, and our national team programs will get support. Our access to better facilities will get support. A lot of the current challenges the community is facing would get resolved, or to a certain extent, with this.
Understand. So essentially, for that to happen, which is kind of like recognition and I would say accreditation, if that's the right word, I'm not sure, from SAI and this thing. So we require 22 states to actually, or is there, that's the minimum number?
Yeah, minimum 2/3 of states in India should be playing the sports.
Wow.
So
do you think that's an uphill task? I mean,
it is. So this is where we have done things a little differently. There are other sports,
right,
who have got this by doing, I would say, I mean, not the way that we would want to do it. There are sports who would associate themselves with other sport organizations and get registered in states where their presence is not there. And Ultimate being a sport where we are also led highly with the spirit of the game, it's a longer process, but it's the right way to go about it. And we want to set an Ultimate footprint in each state before registering it, and not have it registered under a taekwondo association from Orissa or someone else somewhere, right? Where we do get requests from different sport organizations saying that, hey, we would like to register Ultimate in our state. This could be because maybe they get a state some monetary benefits from the state itself if they become the state body. It could be that. It could be to just get more credibility on their own association, to be like they're on the board of multiple sports. Whatever the reason, we have not entertained these requests to directly make them the sports state body, but instead we have said we will send you coaches and we will set up Ultimate there, and then we will let us go about
it's a collaborative effort that way. And also I think that, I mean, personally, if you ask me, I think it's the right way to go about it as well, for sure. But yeah, the only thing is that, yes, when I think about it from a perspective of 22 states, I definitely think that's a really, really uphill and challenging task. I mean, what are the number of states that are playing Ultimate?
We are getting very close to it. We are about 19-20 now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. In Ultimate in some form or the other. So competitive Ultimate is, so Ultimate as a sport in itself globally is run on two pillars. You have your competitive Ultimate and you have recreational Ultimate.
Right.
In India, Ultimate is on, again, two pillars, but it's on competitive Ultimate and sport for development. Our sport for development side of Ultimate has really taken off over the last few years, and that is also one primary reason is because how UPI initially functioned as well. It looked at using Ultimate to help people, and there was this entire community which is beautifully built around it as well because of that. And because of that, we have a lot of NGOs who play Ultimate in different states, who have taken Ultimate as this great tool to improve life skill for a lot of youth. And so that way our presence has grown in a lot of states.
Right.
And we have a lot of partner NGOs. India Ultimate, I think, has 22 to 25 partner NGOs across the country. So through them, we have expanded our footprint, and we are, I would say we are very close to getting to it, but now it's a concentrated effort to convert each state to get properly registered as per the sports code.
Right.
And
what's the pain point in for states to do that? Why haven't they done that yet?
Similarly, I think one of the reasons is like how India Ultimate also had a lot of their focus on competition. I think a lot of players, it's a player on organization, right? Even the state bodies, they come in with the focus on club ultimate and
player development.
And it's that, and they're all volunteer run as well. So the amount of bandwidth they have is also limited. And the day-to-day running of the organization itself takes a lot of bandwidth, and additionally to have this focus has somewhere faltered. But there are state organizations who are still pushing for it, and they are in the established ones. Like Karnataka, I know for a fact has like gotten the funds to register ready, and they've gotten they're trying to get the paperwork ready. I know Gujarat is also like saying, hey, let's get registered. We'll do what is needed. So now with the new TN board, with Maharashtra, we want to run the elections there. We want to work with the board there because centrally we won't be able to do it at 22 places. We will have to decentralize this. And so our first step is to set up the state leads, bring everybody in with this focused goal, and have a timeline of 18 months to go about getting this. And whatever support needed, we will try and give that from the outside.
Right. I mean, I think that's primarily pretty much the route that most of the sports bodies kind of go through when they are kind of national bodies that are governing the states. But I think the biggest challenge with most of the states, like for example, as you mentioned about Maharashtra Ultimate, of course, being from Bombay, and I mean, I know that not only Maharashtra, but even in general, the biggest pain point is always resources. And when I say resources, it's always capital. Don't you think that maybe as a national body, there is a possibility that there could be some support which could happen by way of that? Because I think that will probably just speed up the process a lot more, because I'm not clear or exactly sure about how much it takes kind of to register the state bodies in each state. But I think it must be different in different states. But I know for Maharashtra, that's one of the biggest pain points.
From India Ultimate's point, while we're getting our constitution and everything else amended, what we're also doing is we're getting the framework for a state organization also done by the legal team. So that, and we will pay for that, so that we have the framework done. Now, you don't need to get that done again by another sports lawyer. Like, and we will hand it over to you so that you can then just get it registered locally. Like whatever work needs to get done to get it done right, we will put in that work and get that and spend the resource to get it. And then the additional part then would be to just get it registered, which could vary from I think about 15 to 30,000, depending on you want to register as a society, you want to register as Section 8, and then thereby, right? Which I don't think would come to as a very big amount, especially in established states. If the states focus on it, which is what we want the states to do, is to be like, hey, in the last 2-3 years, we decentralized sectionals, which was our first level 1 tournament, right, for our mixed division. We told the states, hey, you all run it, you all take care of the finances. We would recommend having a small little buffer so you can build up your state capital. And over 2-3 years, if needed at that point, you have enough capital and it's done. And
it builds a corpus for you
to do it, right? A lot of states were like, some states build and wanted to do live streaming instead, and some wanted to keep costs as low as possible. So there is this part where while keeping tournaments affordable and accessible, there is a need to also see that, hey, this is the bigger goal, and let's push for it together in the next 1 or 2 years and see where, let's get over this hump, and then it'll grow the sport after that as well.
But do you not feel in general, I mean, I kind of was hoping that we would get to this part like a little later into the conversation, but now that it's, now that we're talking about it, but do you not feel from a perspective that tournaments are becoming really expensive to participate in? Because that's the larger feeling that you get from the community as well.
Yeah. So tournaments are getting expensive, but running the tournament has also gotten a little expensive. What I mean by that is just the base needs of running a tournament logistically. Grounds have gotten a lot more expensive than what it used to. Be. Now, if Pune wants to host it, they are hosting on this turf ground, right? And turf wasn't an option like 6-7 years back when we were playing in these mud grounds wherever we could get them. And the grounds are the biggest factor in terms of determining the cost of a tournament. Like in Bangalore, there was this one particular ground where it was extremely cheap to get to. It was 10,000 rupees for a day. We don't have access to that ground anymore. So the grounds that we're getting now are 3x. It's 30,000 for a day. Some are 40,000 for a day. And they keep going up.
Right.
So ground costs have gone up across. And that is one in terms of space availability, and a lot more sports is happening in the country. A lot of football, a lot of small little football clubs, a lot of small little cricket clubs. There's a lot of corporate matches where the resource of grounds has become little less accessible. And
reliability is a challenge.
Yeah, and that cost has gone up. Second is we have also, as the community has grown, the expectation from a tournament is also a little bit gone up. Earlier, it used to be just water, bananas, ground. Right? Players come, players play and leave. Now, there were many tournaments where there were no medals. Maybe there was a trophy, like few years ago. But those are the small things that validate the sport as well.
True.
If there is somebody, just assuming there is a player A who is young or working, whatever it is, going to practice 3-4 times a week, having training camps, so on and so forth, goes to a tournament, ends up winning, goes back home and everyone's like, so what did you get? And they're like, no, we won, right?
That's the most common question you get asked when you play as well. When you win something, you go back home, they're like, well, what do you get?
And
nothing.
And then people are like, is this a real sport? What are you playing?
Right.
So you want to give medals, you want to give trophies. And even those, after a point, the medals, those really flimsy, thin ones, make it look not so great, especially when you're playing something like nationals.
Yes.
In the country.
I think there's a sense of ownership, gratification, also achievement.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it actually puts, and you know, as you rightly said, that's precisely, especially for people who kind of reach like the masters category, essentially, because you're obviously working, you're obviously playing this as a serious hobby. You are spending your weekends going to tournaments, spending time away from family and whatever friends. And then when you win stuff and you come back, so then this is, because I remember I was asked this question a lot in the initial days when I was playing. It's like, okay, oh, you won, okay, but what do you get for it?
What do you get?
Yeah, nothing. I mean, I just won. I know that you won. That's all. So I completely understand where you're coming from that perspective. Okay, so you're saying that all of those basically compounded costs are the ones which are...
Yeah, and it's photography, like the more shareable media that we create, the more reach the sport also has. Now, if there are pictures of you playing, or if there are clips of you playing, and you sharing on social media is going to reach another 100, 500 people who are like, hey, okay, there is this sport. It validates the sport a little, and it's not a one-time investment. It's over a period of time. The more media that we create, the more content we create for the sport as well. Now, so we need live streaming to happen for certain tournaments. We need photography to be there for certain tournaments. We want to have physios at tournaments to take care of the players. So all of these, which were good to have things, are now becoming a little more of must-have for tournaments. and all of these push the needle a little bit, and costs have gone up overall as well.
I think it's a step in a good direction, definitely, because it professionalizes the whole experience from a tournament perspective. But I'm trying to imagine and wonder if this is being communicated to the community.
So that's one big gap that we've got. We've not been able to communicate as much as we should, or we want to. I want to say, like even like we just finished our mixed division, right? Which had regionals happen across 5 different regions, and nationals happened in Surat. The cumulative cost of the mixed division, India Ultimate ended up, I think, with a profit of probably 1,000-2,000 rupees. Is what it came down to eventually. That is what.
PNL.
Yeah, there are regions which did which went under a little bit of a loss. There are regions which did a little better, but overall, including beach nationals, all of this, the mixed division, our PNL was like way less than what we wanted it to be, because a part of supporting the organizational structure is from the vertical of domestic competition as well, and that is where we were. And yeah, so we want to relook at the fees and structures for next year. This year we had a standardized fees and structure, saying that which you could see early in the year and be like, hey, tournaments, this is what it's going to cost. And we are now have to probably relook at it and be like, let's approach each tournament as a individual tournament and have like a 10% or something on it.
I think it's, I think that's a better approach as well, but maybe there still might be backlash from the community, but I know for sure that in terms of registrations, there definitely is a lot of conversation about how those basically, because just to give you a small example, is someone who's actually playing, like, say, when you come for a nationals, and if you're obviously having a standardized fee structure, when you're playing 16 teams or maybe 32 teams, which then it still logically sits. But if you're playing a regionals or a sectionals, where you end up just playing maybe 5 or 16, which is again a conversation I surely want to have, I mean, maybe like in the next few minutes. But then it just does not justify. Say, for example, if you're playing 17,500 as a team, if my math is correct, roughly give or take, as a registration fee, and if you're going to play like 3 or 4 teams, plus then the additional cost of stay, all of those other things which are there, it kind of boils down to roughly the math of about like 5,000 to 6,000 bucks per player per tournament.
Including the rest,
the stay, the travel, the player fee, and all of those things, which I think to play like 4 or 5 teams is an expensive affair. And I'm sure that's the sort of feedback that you get from the community as well.
So when people talk about expenses, most of the expenses is like the other travel and stay logistics, because tournament wise, I think the most expensive tournament would be the nationals, which would come to about 1,200 per player. And for those, we try and get at least like something to happen in it if possible, unless the grounds for it shoot way out of our budget. But localizing the tournaments is the other way to reduce that cost, right? And
but aren't we already doing that?
Yeah, that is why the sectionals and stuff came into play. So the sectionals was to localize it, and then regionals at least makes it cheaper to travel. You're just traveling within your region. But nationals is the only place where there might be a long travel, and the nationals we alternate between north and south every year, so that it reduces costs as well. So in terms of, I mean, all of these are already processes put in place to ensure that we reduce costs as much. But
do you feel it's working? Because I feel it's still going in a reverse manner, where despite having localized, because I remember, I think when the tour was there initially when I joined the committee, and after that when it was structured into the NCS, the adaptation, where then after 2 years, I remember that when we brought in the whole sectionals and then regionals and then nationals, if I'm not mistaken, that's also because it's required as a process and a structure for us to get recognized. And that was a great thought process. I think it was super. But then
having those sectionals and regionals in place as well essentially has not really reduced the cost in that respect. I like my experience from 2018, if I see, I think it's only increased. And that's okay. It's natural that you cannot, like, for example, you cannot buy an apple at the same cost that you bought it at 5 years back. I completely agree. But then that if that cost goes like 3 or 4-fold up, then has that worked in the way as it was anticipated by IU?
So the primary goal at that point was, one is we need to have nationals, like you said, to get recognized in this one. As a body, we need to have nationals. Second was to have sectionals to reduce the travel. So nationals is one thing you are anyway going to play. If you're playing the tour as well, you're going to play one tournament outside of this one, and so that cost of that remains the same.
Right.
Sectionals is your other tournament, and that's a lot more local, and which becomes the cheapest tournament to play as well. But to qualify for nationals, there had to be a bridge between the sectionals and the nationals, and hence regionals came in. Had to come in to set in from a competition point of view, if not like a section like Bangalore where 16 teams play. We don't want it to become due to quantity and needed to compete against somebody else and get it, and that is where the region came in. But should regionals still be relevant, still be there, could be a good question for us to take back to competitions and discuss and see, or bring it to a two-tier system, which is like our opens and women's division,
Right.
which is a two-tier system, is something that is worth checking.
Understand. Right. In terms of like what do you call the costing as well, now there has been a lot of conversation about, the accounting. Okay, before that, let me just ask this, and in a very whatever, I'm a very upfront, straightforward person. When and I can understand if it could be an effort as well. Are you also deliberately trying to build up their corpus as well, just the way you are suggesting that the stakes should also build their corpus to do registrations or register a body and stuff like that? Is that also a direction in which you and the board thinks?
So right now, we haven't had the chance to do that yet. The IU wants to build a corpus, like we should eventually, but right now we're trying to see if we can expand the team to be able to deliver more. And to do that, we're trying to see, like this is my year one, right? It's like 7-8 months into the job. My expectations of what this year's finance budget was that we drew up is not where we are heading towards, right? Membership fees wise, we have been able to meet expectations, but tournament wise, like I said, we haven't been able to. And our three verticals in terms of where IU gets a revenue from the community is membership, domestic competition, and national teams. So we try, and all of these three verticals try and feed directly into what you're paying for. Like domestic competition, only those who are playing end up paying. National teams, only those who are playing the national team. So it's not like you're making the domestic team person pay for the national team resources, the national team person pay for the domestic having resources for the domestic, this one, right? Even though our shared resources, we try and ensure more of the resources that, the money that we get from it go back into the same verticals that it comes from. So I'm currently in the process of making the budget for the next year, and we are in a fix in terms of, can we extract more work out of the current team? Is it necessary for us to have an additional person as well? So we are not looking at building a corpus as a plan right now. We're looking at sustaining what we have, rather. Like, this is the budget to run the organization right now, and how do we meet this budget? From what verticals can we fund this current budget? That is where we are at, and in a year, in a competition where we get a sponsor coming on board for a particular domestic competition, if we get a, there we happen to have corpus, which hasn't happened this year.
Right.
So that would be the only corpus, but it's not come out of a plan that, hey, let us build a corpus. Let us charge little more here and start building a corpus hasn't been the plan.
Okay. But there is, I mean, in my mind, I don't think so as a state, rather as a national body, it should not be a plan. The reason I say that is because, you know, I think the best way that any community, any sport can grow is if there is infrastructure, especially when it comes to capital influx, you know, and that capital influx, especially a surplus of it, can only be basically deployed towards growing. Like say, for example, you can reach what you call your targets for 3 years within a year if you have the base level capital or if you have surplus capital or influx. So even if you have that in mind or as a body, I really don't think that it is, it's something which is probably would be alien to most people who understand the concept of what IU is trying to achieve. The only thing is, yes, probably if it's communicated better. The reason is because I think still there is a lot of questions, because if I remember correctly, I don't know, somebody told me a while back, a year or some back, there was a call which was supposed to be there between one of the bodies that we represent and also with states or some other whatever captains. It was a call which was supposed to be basically of a very different conversation, but
it went into accounts.
Everything, there was not even a single conversation or a single question was actually asked about what the topic was.
Yeah.
And the weirdest thing was that the reps who were actually on that call, they were not even
to answer
those things. So that's why. So which means that there is like, do you feel that there is possibly, I know that in August there was a report in terms of allocation where how the funds are being deployed was there. But then has there been any audited as such of a report which has been presented, which kind of makes it so clear for the community to look, this is the reality, like how you're telling me today, that from a competition structure or from a mixed structure, we are kind of like just a few $1,000 up, you know?
So, two things to address here. Also going back to the corpus part, I think we also didn't have an opportunity to look at building a corpus because we were in debt in 2019. We were in debt and we were in heavy debt of 25 lakhs plus. This was, we sent a national team after being promised sponsorship, and then the sponsor pulled out. Which left us in heavy debt, and the entire focus for the next 2-3 years was to pay off that debt or recover from that debt. And fortunately for us, I think 2 of the people who we owed a lot of money, they wrote off a lot of it, and they were folks from the community.
Is this a campaign that I'm assuming the campaign that you're referring to? I don't want to get into the specifics, but is this the campaign, the national campaign that you're referring to, where the sponsors?
Yeah.
Okay, it's the same one. Oh, this is news. This is interesting.
In 2019.
Yes, I know. I mean, I don't want to get into the specifics of that. But
and we were very fortunate that 2 of them wrote off big chunks of the debt, but still we had a big enough amount to still recover. We ran a program. The board under Meghna at that point, we ran a program asking folks in the community if they would like to help, and a lot of folks put their hands up and they helped, and everything we did was to recover, come out of the debt at that point. So after that is when we are now building, sustaining, and I think beyond this is when we'll have to look at what more to grow, how to grow as well. In terms of the accounts, so there's been a transition from UPI to FDSFI, right? There are 2 different registered bodies, right? So we have the auditor accounts of one, and we are getting the auditor accounts of the other. So FDSFI is our primary one, and we have the audit accounts for that. But giving the accounts, FDSFI accounts of 21, 22 and 22, 23 isn't going to be of any use to anybody because there's barely anything spent in that. UPI is our body of which it makes more sense to share the accounts of.
Right.
Now the UPI accounts went through two obstacles. One is the accountant went MIA for a very long time. The auditor's office has been shut for, I don't know, for however long. So the accountant has been following up, not been able to, and he's like, I'll give you signed by me. I'm like, no, we want the auditor signed once. So there was some back and forth on it, and all of this has been, there's been a transition of workforce as well. So the CEO, Mrinalini, ended her term in 2023 December. I came in 2024 June. So there was 6 months of this one, and there were multiple things happening in transition as well. Other than that, we missed the eKYC of UPI. UPI was the signatories, a lot of the older folks from much before. Our account got blocked over there, which wasn't relevant to us, but it's relevant in terms of finishing up the transition and the audit accounts. So there has been some back and forth on that, and finally we've got our hands on the audit accounts, and so there are a lot of questions on that, which the board is also clarifying. So we need to also get everyone's time here, right? We have the current board, we have the ex-CEO, we have me, and get everyone together, sit, have more questions, go back, get them clarified, come back, more questions, go back, clarify. So it's a process that is taking a little longer than, like, the accounts are done, it's all done. We just wanted to ensure that everything is done right and then present it.
Understand. What's the timeline?
Maybe it's a longer process. I'm thinking now, I'll just publish it. Let's get because anyway there's going to be questions. Let's get the questions. Let's handle them together. Then have a different date when we can have an AMA on it if needed, whatever needed, and then have. So the auditor accounts are ready with me right now. It's just a matter of putting it out.
Got you.
And they're actually out also. Like, it's only the 23-24 audit accounts that need to be presented.
So it's very interesting actually. Like when I sit across to you now and when I have this conversation, I think these are the sort of things which possibly is a communication which maybe like once in 6 months if it's done. You know, maybe even from the IU account on Insta, by just having a conversation, I'd be happy to volunteer to kind of what you call have these sort of chats more often. You know, because what it does is then, yes, as you're saying, the thing is that when you have an AMA, when you have an open platform, and then you, because there's a barrage of questions which kind of come in, you kind of get derailed. So then it kind of puts everything a lot more into perspective. You know, and also I think what it does is it gives the community also an idea that it's heading in the direction that we all want the sport to kind of head in. You know, that the heart is also in the right place, the mind is in the right place. So that's the direction that we are kind of wanting to go to.
Absolutely. The other part of it, like you were saying that, hey, the community doesn't know that the mixed division went through this loss and stuff. So there's this report that the delay is on my end. I've been drafting this report. Madhu, who works with us, had put together a report saying sectionals, regionals. We just need to finish the nationals report and then put them together and share it. And each of those reports also talk about, hey, how the tournament went, what all did we try putting in new this time, and also the accounts of the tournament.
Right.
So in terms of like transparency and stuff is something that we really want to bring in. Like one of the multiple focus points that when I joined was to bring a few of these things, and those reports will hopefully resolve, I mean, at least bring a lot more clarity to the community. And the timeline for that for sure is to have it out before the AGM so that people can see it and have, if they have any questions, we can talk about it. The AGM won't be able to have the Opens Nationals report because it'll just be completing with
But do you think that's the appropriate time to kind of do the AGM?
So
I know it was a
yeah.
process earlier,
Yeah,
wherein
yeah.
like where we had, because it's usually a tournament where so many folks are actually there,
Correct.
and that it
Yeah.
gives a great opportunity to
Yeah.
do this. But if you have like the stakeholders and the captains of the teams which are attending, like maybe like I think it was a workshop which was done, I think sometime back, was it?
Yeah, yeah.
If I'm not
The
mistaken.
last one was probably 4-5 years ago. You're talking about
Yes.
that? Yeah, yeah.
I think so, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Do you think that is a better approach than doing it at tournaments?
Did think of it, and so the amount of ultimate that's happening now has increased so much. I don't know how many people will travel just for
Good question in my mind.
just to attend this. If it happens, I think it should be in Bangalore because of just the amount of people playing ultimate. Will probably have a higher representation of people coming in to attend it at least. The AGM can be for multiple, like I was thinking the AGM can be for a specific focus on right now where we are and what we want to achieve as a national body over the next 18 months, having the plan for that,
Right.
announce that, and our board is also going to go into re-election this year, right? So also announce the board election and the process for it as a primary this one, to have a form out for any other questions to see if they can be addressed then. If they can't be addressed, then to have an online separate meeting just to address whatever needs are over a weekend, so people across the country, wherever you are, you can join in and you can address
The
it.
reason I ask this is because like the question in my mind is that, you know, if like, let's be honest, when a team is actually coming to a opens tournament, then naturally the first primary focus is obviously to win or to play the tournament. Then I do not know how much of that priority will be there, and whether objectively whether it will also give the most appropriate outcome that IU is kind of looking for, as opposed to like a model where you have a workshop or where you have like a online hybrid model, which will, the agenda is very clear. So you know that you get the maximum output. Yes, the numbers might not be the same as you might get in a practical sense, but I feel the optimal output or the productivity might be a lot more. I don't know if
That's fair.
Yeah.
We did try to have the AGM at mixed nationals. We had only like 6-7 people turn up, so we said, hey, let's not do this. Right? But that was also due to short notice. But what you're saying also is a great idea. I think it's definitely worth considering. We can also check with the captains in the community about it as well. The in-person makes a lot of difference to have a conversation face to face, and would prefer that hybrid model over just having a pure virtual one.
Yeah, because I'm not sure if, I mean, sorry to come in, but I'm not sure if actually whether that communication is gone out with everybody of the whole community where the AGM is kind of planned. Because I still feel that a lot of people in the community still don't know.
Yeah.
So maybe, you know.
So I mean, that's stuff for this week. There has been some travel and I've not been able to get to it. We'll try and close that this week, along with or maybe look at the next event, which is Masters Nationals.
Right.
If depending on the location, if there is something we can do on an evening off ground, because right now we're planning AGM on ground.
Right.
Yeah, it's definitely worth considering.
Understand,
Thanks.
yeah. Because by the time I think this conversation is also out, that Opens Nationals would already be over. But then, but in general, very interesting point that you actually came up with, and I wanted to talk about that, was that, you know, you said that, actually before that, how's your time as the CEO so far been?
Professionally, personally?
Both?
Both. It's been really exciting. Sometimes and very frustrating. Sometimes. So Ultimate was also like being a player was also the space where you can go in to get away from work and get away from everything else, right? Yeah, but now Ultimate is
The
becomes
biggest amount of stress.
becomes the stress. So that that's one part of it. So professionally, my time as CEO, I think it's still very short. The amount of things that we wanted to do was a lot more. I mean, and understanding that these things will take a little longer. One is to improve our communication, like what we're talking about. The community doesn't know a lot of these things that we're talking about. Is to how to bring that out, how to up our social media game was one. Second was transparency, and planning was another. So we've been able to share a schedule way ahead in the off season on what this year is going to look like. You can start planning right now. These are the number of tournaments happening. These are the places it's happening. These are the dates it's happening. And we've been able to actually stick to that across, right? Which has been great in terms of planning. Then transparency, once these accounts are out and once that conversation gets over, once we put out these reports, I'm hoping that that will also put at rest whatever speculations, whatever distress or questions the community has. Then was to grow the sport. And to grow the sport, not just from having more competitions. Like the Club Ultimate is a big part of Indian Ultimate, right? Because that's our primary community. I don't know if I mentioned, but we have two pillars of Ultimate, right? Like I mentioned earlier, we've got competitive Ultimate and we've got our sport for development. But we want to also introduce Ultimate for people who want to just play it for fun. We want to have recreational Ultimate come in, and recreational Ultimate is big outside of India, right? And anybody who picks up a disc right now tries to get somebody tries to recruit them into a club, like it's to play for club, especially if they are decent enough to or have played any sport. We want to set up a space where you don't look at Ultimate as just as a club or domestic competition, but something that you can also just play for fun. And it's a great social game as well. It's mixed gender. It has a spirit circle. It's not aggressive. It's a lot more easy to get into it because at any age, because everybody who's playing right now is used to teaching somebody how to play, how to throw a disc for the first time. And there is somebody throwing a disc for the first time somewhere. Like as opposed to, you can't just walk into a field and play with other cricketers or footballers if you haven't played that sport before at all in your mid-20s maybe. But Ultimate offers you a space where it's a lot more welcoming for someone to come in and learn the sport and become part of a small community, right? There is that space that we can build, which will also give, I mean, footprint increases, visibility of the sport increases, player base increases across. And that's organically also happening in Bangalore. Bangalore has a big recreational Ultimate space, which is organized by few folks. Their beginner Ultimate happens in 2-3 locations every week.
Right.
So trying to see how, as the National Federation, can we propel it, maybe own it to a certain extent in terms of having some structure to it, because owning it will ensure that it sustains as well, as opposed to just letting somebody run it and we don't know where it's going to go.
But do you think that's required? I mean, because it's as part of growth and development of any sport, it is only natural that stuff like this is happening organically, right? So then for IU to, what do you call, in the current scenario where to dispose of resources, and when I say resources, I mean people, right? To do that is just engaging yourself to do something else, or take up additional on your plate when you already have a lot?
So the thought stemming from it is, if we are able to partner with folks who can run it, and we give a broader plan, and if this eventually builds up to hire a person in that city who runs this, right? And there are so many folks who are playing the sport and just finishing colleges, getting into work, looking for work, and wouldn't mind becoming a coach as well, where if this program can sustain that coach in each city, that coach thereby during the day can also become a coach to go to colleges and schools. So recreational ultimate becomes a base which is run in partnership, and if that can build up a revenue of 20-25K a month, and that sustains a full-time coach, and then that coach becomes somebody with whom we can deploy to schools and colleges to increase, like it's a longer term thing. We want to do a pilot, want to see how it works.
But I personally feel, I think there are much more, I mean, and again, like I come from a, I mean, naturally, like most of us come from a corporate background, and when I'm looking and thinking from a perspective, I understand when you said that it's possibly a offshoot or a side shoot where you can own that property and then it kind of becomes a sustainable revenue stream for you to coach as well, at the same time grow the sport. But I feel that, I think at this point of time, and again, I mean, if you don't mind me saying, I feel, to me, it feels as if one is that we are short of resources because there are only so many of you. And then everybody else is kind of a volunteer committee, which means that there is only so much that they're going to devote their time to, especially as life becomes busier. From that perspective, I think, do you feel that, I mean, there's not that much of a requirement to macro manage into a lot of these things? Like competitions per se as well, like you were saying, you know, from that perspective, that if, like you were mentioning that competitions is taking a lot of the time off the offline. I mean, you were saying that it takes a lot of your time as well. You know, is there that requirement for you to handhold or whatever do? Because you could force, you could focus on the broader, the bigger things.
So competitions is, and we've been able to slowly demarcate what we are focusing on. Competition is not something that I am personally spending too much of time on. We've got like, but resources are, like Madhu is, you know, is work.
And she's doing a great job, I think. She's really good.
She is. She's a prime example of somebody, like a lot of us, like from the outside, we're not happy with what is happening, and then came in and saw, hey, what all needs to be done and how much of it needs to be done, and has had her opinion changed within a couple of months of coming in to work. But great resource, and she's doing a lot of good work. Sorry, I lost my train of thought.
In terms of like whether handholding is required from whatever.
So speaking from the recreational ultimate point of view, which is where we are not going to be overseeing it in. It's to make the plan. So we're looking for partners who will run it, where we don't need to be involved in it. It'll be like, it could be OSU, or it could be School of Ultimate in Maharashtra doing it. It could be Bangalore has Gully Games, and it has a couple of other people who do beginners ultimate, recreational ultimate. So finding partners who we can hand this over to, but be like, hey, this is the structure of certain things that we want in place, and if it becomes a weekly thing, it also gives a steady footprint to also reach out to brands to tell them, hey, we will give you this, you can co-partner or brand this property as yours, if you're a sports drink or if whatever you are, if you can fund half the ground cost, and hence we get some revenue from it to, because it's a weekly, it'll become a weekly, the cadence increases.
It already is.
Yeah,
in most of the places, right? Yeah, like pickup games and very common across the country.
Yeah, so to keep it, so something with that cadence, and to have, to see if there are other marketing possibilities with it as well, which don't get offered by a one-off tournament that happens once every couple of months.
Interesting that you mentioned this. Like, so currently, like, what is the structure wherein, like, what you call sponsorships and marketing is actually done? How's it getting done? Is there someone specific who gets done, or is it's the same resources like you along with ops and everybody else kind of gets into it?
So we've got Hina. Somebody's working on communications and partnerships.
Right.
So that's one of the primary. So we brought her in so that we have somebody focusing on partnerships also. But with partnerships, a lot of it is contacts, and I think we are repeatedly hitting the same contacts and folks that we can get. So we have reached out to the community a couple of times to be like, hey, put us in touch with people. Let us take the conversation forward. All we need is like an introductory call or an email to go forward and then take it up. Unfortunately, so far we've not been too successful in getting that. We tried incentivizing it, saying that we'll give something, but that's also not push the needle. Maybe the message isn't getting out there to the whole community.
No, I think that message was very clear in terms of like what you call being out there. I just feel that possibly we require a lot more focus in that respect of actually having like dedicated person by expanding the IU whatever resource, by genuinely bringing on somebody full time who only their job is only this. The reason is because even if they are able to convert, even if it's a single digit conversion, say by meeting 5-6 people, even if you convert 1 or 2, you know, and if that experience, for example, like I always tell my team as well in general, that's my thought process, that the first time that you work with someone, the experience with that what you call conversation or that platform needs to be so good that next time you don't have to sell yourself all the property. It needs to sell itself. Then you just need to crunch the numbers. You just need to be basically, okay, whether this is sufficing for me. If it's not sufficing, then we would like to up this. The reason is because I'm going to give you so much more deliverables than what it was before. It should never go back to the same question of whether you are happy and whether I have to now again convince you for the next time whether you want to do it or not. You know, and I think that's a full-time job. That's something which requires, and that I feel will also be able to allow IU to actually do and achieve so much more, because it brings me back to a capital influx, because that capital influx will then percolate in everywhere. It will allow you to do a lot more grassroots. It will allow you to do probably like offset some of the costs which is off the tournaments, which means the community is happy and happier folks will be, will probably do much whatever more positive output towards whatever India Ultimate as well. So I think that's something which is very, very important, I feel. Because then it'll help the national campaigns as well. You don't really have to go into crowdfunding and all of those things, which a lot of players unfortunately have to do. So, I mean, that's where I feel that's very important in that respect. It's interesting what you speak about recreational ultimate, because I think I absolutely agree with what is happening in terms of IU. The reason is because naturally there is like the serious form of ultimate, which is club, national, club championships and NCS. Then of course you obviously have the NTC, which is really the India teams, which are I think consistently doing better and better at international tournaments. And then there's a recreational league. But do you also feel that in some ways there is too much of ultimate happening? And if that's counterproductive to the NCS as such?
So as we are growing, as the player base also grows, there are more opportunities to play different kinds of different levels of tournaments. Right? We aren't fully there to. But right now we've gone to 2 divisions. We've gone into a mixed and open women's division. Our player base isn't big enough for players to pick which one they want to play. Like everywhere else in the world, you're either a mixed club or you're an opens or women's club, and that's primarily the ultimate you play. That's the division you play. Our player base hasn't, but we are at that cusp of a growing player base from one angle, right? It's addressing one of the multiple points of this. From one, we've got a growing player base, plus we are also trying to leverage what we are good at, which is mixed, while looking at player growth and a division which a lot of players prefer, which is opens and women's as well. Trying to get a good balance between both is where we currently are at, right? And India being having the climate that it does, we have a naturally set season and an off season where where you can get out and play sport
recreationally.
Yeah, to play at all, right? Like it's from September onwards is when the weather is kind of good to play till about March, when it starts getting hotter and hotter, right? So the season kind of falls into that space. Technically, that is our season to play ultimate from the national body at least, right? To ensure that at least most of the community, 90% of them play within that period. And then you have, like, when as you take the sport more serious and you become a serious athlete, you train for it in a certain way. You have your gym, you have your sprints, you have your practice, you have your skill sessions, so on and so forth, and all of this is cramped up that you need to have a place to decompress and to get an off season as well. So the calendar in itself gives you a couple of months of off season for anybody to take some time off. But as Ultimate is growing, people want to have more experiences, and there are off season tournaments that happen, which could be destination tournaments like Fly Baba or Paravan Moonar, or it could be leagues that are organized. And as a player, it eventually comes down to the athlete on what all do I want to play.
True.
Right? Because the opportunities to play are going to be multiple. They're going to be what do you want to prioritize will become one question. And if you don't need to prioritize because you're on peak of your health and you think I can play 12 months, I can train 12 months without having any load on my body, that's a decision an athlete would have to make. But as a body, I think we need to give space for athletes to get some time off to recover, strengthen, and then come back to playing as well. So our season is kind of built like that, with our biggest event ending in March, which will have the biggest in terms of numbers, ending in March. And after that, we have a Masters Nationals, which is a small little section. It's a different section that plays. And then we've got, this year for the first time, we've got our state championship coming in May, right? So, which would again have a smaller section of the community playing and not the whole community. After which there would be at least a 3-month break, 3.5-4 months break before the next competition in the NCS beginning.
Right. But the reason I say that is because do you not feel it's counterproductive? Now, for example, for states like Bangalore and of course, Karnataka and Tamil Nadu, because there is a lot of teams, essentially there is still not a lot of filtration which is probably happening in terms of the teams participating. But if you take the lesser states, which is probably the West Coast, the North, a little bit of the East and stuff like that, in terms of like from sectionals to regionals where there's naturally a filtration process so that you play locally. And I think I completely endorse that thought process because I know that was one of the things that Comms also set it up and I was also involved in that decision. I thought that's a great way to, what you call, span out. But because there's so much of ultimate happening now at the local level, which is sectionals and regionals, you are slowly, like at least in some of the other states, seeing like lesser participation from teams. Like this time, if I'm not mistaken, I think since the time I've started playing Ultimate, the first time I played a regionals which only had 5 teams.
Yeah.
It was a shocker.
Yeah.
honestly speaking. And that's primarily because most teams said that, okay, look, there's too much of Ultimate happening. And so that's why I'm coming from that perspective. Because I think, if I'm not mistaken, in Karnataka and Tamil Nadu as well, this time, like, the number of teams which participated in certain sectionals and regionals were also lesser than what they were earlier.
Karnataka had 16 teams, and if I'm not mistaken, the previous year would have had 16 or 17. So it's about the same number of teams that participate in Karnataka. In Tamil Nadu, it was, if I can't remember right, but I think it was 7 or 9 teams that participated there.
Which is lesser than what it usually is.
So,
I mean, the crux of the...
Yeah. So, also, the other part of recreational ultimate, what we hope it grows, is it also, one is give a different space for people to play ultimate in a non-competitive space where you can just come, play, have fun, go back. You don't need to get into the drills of competitive ultimate is one. Second is, it will probably offshoot into also new clubs forming. Right, it is because if you see in terms of growth of ultimate, last time, like this big hub of Chennai had a new club come in. I think will be in probably 2018 or 2019. I don't think a new club has formed in Chennai since then. I think Bangalore has had at least 1 or 2 new clubs come up in the last 2 years. They have played a couple of local tournaments, and they probably hopefully start playing more tournaments. But there is some sort of growth happening there. Mumbai, Delhi, also the number of clubs haven't actually grown. Like Vipers was an offshoot of Stray Dogs in Delhi, but we haven't seen, because a lot of these, I mean, I can't comment from outside. These are again assumptions on what is happening in these cities.
No, I personally feel that definitely there has been growth. Like, for example, Maharashtra, even Delhi, I think there are fewer clubs which have surely come in, and then they've naturally built up the level of competition as well, which is like, for example, if I take Maharashtra and Pune, there's UP has come. You know, FS, of course, were always there, but now they become super competitive, really, like whatever. Similar with Vipers, Stray Dogs, of course. So there is definitely that respect that's happening, but what is happening is, while these clubs are definitely increasing, maybe like a few far between in over a period of 2 years, for some reason, at some point of time, they are now also not looking at participating into the local fray. So like the thought process where I'm coming from in my question is more from that perspective, that is there any attempt that IU is making to probably increase that level of participation, or there's something that IU can do to do this?
We haven't had a focused on it yet. Analysis on why, and to see what to fix and how to fix it. Right? Haven't got in depth over there yet, but we have seen the participation in tournaments fluctuate year on year depending on the location of the tournament. So the same 5-team regionals, and the next year you have it in a different region, and you see that the number increases. So it comes more of players choosing rather than teams on what are the tournaments that how far can they travel, and how many days can they take off, and what does it cost. And then the teams thereby seeing that how many players do we have, can we send a team, not send a team to this tournament, and then making a call accordingly. A lot of it is still player driven. There are whereas there are few other clubs where it's a club driven model rather than a player driven model, where they plan for the tournament way in advance and be like, we need this, and also start making note of, okay, these are the number of players who may not be able to come due to financial reasons, and this is when we start putting in the work to cover the finances of these players. So those clubs will end up playing no matter where the tournaments are held, because they make a yearly plan on how to approach and which are the tournaments to play. A lot of clubs still are player driven in terms of on the player availability, but a lot of times clubs make the decision, a lot of times players make the decision. And I think it will keep growing, and hopefully it'll come, everybody will come to a club led decision, and then the location of the tournament is a factor what won't becoming a deciding factor, at least. Like even Masters Nationals, when it happened in Bangalore 2 years ago, I think there were 12 teams. When it went to Goa, it became 5 teams last year, and coming back to Bangalore this year, it's 9 teams. It's increased, but it's not come back to what it was. But there's definitely, we've seen location becoming a big deciding factor in terms of fluctuation, rather than club's interest to play. And the club could be interested, but the player's availability and the player decide becomes a decision maker in that. Yeah.
Understand. Yeah, I think it's a chicken and egg story in that respect. So, and I completely understand it's very difficult to kind of cover all bases when it comes to, and this is like very much the flux in which a lot of the comms also operates because of these sort of challenges, whether to kind of take those decisions and not. Of course, being privy to those conversations, it puts things into perspective for me. I just hope for the larger community also it does that. I want to actually just talk a little bit about, you know, the good work that RU is doing in terms of like at grassroots level. Can you please tell us about that? Because I wanted to talk about it in the beginning to kind of set the narrative, but then we went into the operational route.
So there's quite a bit happening. I want to talk about two projects primarily. One is Game Changers. Project Game Changers was, I use like the technical support to make this happen. It's a project where we've got 100 women coaches being developed in the country, and the 100 women coaches are in turn training at least 20 other players. So we have like, in a year, the plan is to have 1,000 people playing Ultimate across the country. The program was funded by the US Consulate. It was a sports diplomacy grant that we got from the US Consulate, and hence the program was in 5 US embassy locations in the country, right? So that is where the program is happening, and it's an incredible program. We've got some amazing stories already coming out of it. We had one cohort of coaches come down from the US to India, go to these 5 locations, do the first round of training for these women coaches, and through that we're building women leaders as well, right? That is the goal. There's women leadership, and plus there is growth of the sport happening at a grassroots level. Our partners on this is Ultimate Peace in the US, who we are partnering with this on this project. Unfortunately, as of a month and a half ago, the new administration, US administration, has cut funding to the project. Right now, women leadership in India doesn't fall under one of the goals of the new administration. So we are looking at funding the project privately through other donors, locally and internationally, to complete phase 1, that is not phase 1, year 1 of the project, and then go into year 2 as well. It's one of our big projects, and WIFDIF is in full support for the project, and they also are trying to see how else can they help us get to a completion on this. So Game Changers is one big project that we have happening. The second one is we are in partnership with the Saurabh Mandela Foundation in Meghalaya, who are working with the Meghalaya government, and we are now completing year 2 of the project, and this is something that I want to make a lot of noise about, and hopefully it reaches a lot of people through this, is The Chief Minister of Meghalaya has set up a Chief Minister Youth Center plan where they have 22 centers in Meghalaya, and they offer multiple things to help build the community in Meghalaya. And sport is one big component of it, and the sport that they have picked is Ultimate Frisbee, and we are the partners on delivering it on ground over there. So we've just completed 2 years of the project, and we have shown proof, and now they're increasing it from 22 centers, and they're going to become 43 centers over the next 12 months, and then 43 they're going to become 64 centers in the next year, 26, 27, and that's the plan right now. And it would, I think, become the biggest concentration of Ultimate Frisbee. Probably it could be in the world in terms of growth, where we have 63, 64 centers where we have coaches on ground training people, and we will have master coaches and so on and so forth. We'll have a hierarchy there that we're building, and all those coaches will it'll become, in the plan in the future, they become state jobs and they become government employees as well.
Do you not think a model like this can be explored with other state governments?
It is.
Have you tried?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is our proof of the pudding, and we are planning to work with the Saurabh Mandela Foundation itself, as they are also looking at taking this similar model of not just Ultimate Frisbee, of the whole model that they are presenting to other states in the Northeast.
Right.
We are we're looking at that, and we want to take parts of that model and go out to other states.
Right.
Not just in the Northeast, but the rest of the country as well. This will take time, and like even setting that up in Meghalaya was a lot of groundwork done by SMF, the Saurabh Mandela Foundation, initially, and that took years to be able to get the state to buy in to be able to do it. Now that we have something to show in terms of proof, it wouldn't take that long. It shouldn't take years to, but it is going to be a process. But it is something that we are focusing on. It's a vertical for us to continue developing.
But do you feel that while this grassroots level of what we are actually doing in like East, when you say this, a thought comes to my mind. It is great naturally because you're laying those foundations, but from an outcome perspective, in terms of what we see practically from a teams or clubs or players coming out of there, is that satisfactory? Yeah.
So we have just finished having 2 sectionals in Meghalaya. Last year, this year, this season, we had 2 sectionals, and we had the teams who qualify from there go to Assam to play regionals as well. We have another program with the ANT organization in Assam. The ANT organization in Assam at one point had 7,000 people playing Ultimate a couple of years back. So it's another big hub of Ultimate that we have happening there. So they had regionals happen there this year. In this coming season, we'll probably have 1 team come in from the Northeast for our nationals as well. That is from the club point of view. We'll also have, we're looking at setting up the program such that we also get to pick top talent to try out for a national team program over the next 2-3 years, because it's still at a very basic level in which they are picking up the sport, and we're looking to amp that up this year.
Right.
We've had some great coaches go there in this last couple of years, but we're trying to have more on ground coaches who are not just going there to run camps for a month, but be there for longer periods of time, because it's even a geographically spread program across Meghalaya. So in terms of this program is giving us a lot of insights on how we can plan a structure of entering states and spreading the sport across while maintaining quality and maintaining while upskilling, capacity building the coaches, and take that forward as well.
Yeah. It's interesting that you say this, like in terms of national teams. Like thought comes to my mind, where do you think India Ultimate and Indian players are currently when it comes to global talent?
we have made massive strides in the past couple of years. I think few of our male players can closely match with a lot of the top talent in the world. The couple of our women can also do that, but the numbers are quite they differ quite a bit. Playing mixed ultimate primarily, we have done. I think we have performed relatively well, at least at an Asia level, right? If we just look back at results only, like 2019, getting bronze in both beach and grass the same year. So having enough talent to send to two different teams, right? And get bronze was incredible. And last year, again getting medal on beach was great. And I feel like in 2023, when we sent a mixed team to the grass competition and we finished I think 4th or 5th, we sent an under 23 team to an open age category in mixed, and we still finished quite high. And we had 2 more clubs from India participate in the same this one and like finish in the top 10, right? So if we had just accumulated the talent of those 3 teams together, we would have definitely got, I feel like we would have definitely got a medal that year as well, or even 2 medals maybe. But Asia wise, I think we have made a lot of progress. But on the global stage, our most recent performance was WUC, right, where we finished 17th. Even though our global ranking is way lower than that, 17th, looking in comparison to global ranking in itself, I think is an achievement where we are. But looking at that tournament a little more closely, there were games where we were 1 point away from making the quarters, and we had extremely close, intense competitive games against one of the podium finishers. So looking at that, I feel like we are making progress, but a lot of our talent is also, we are like top heavy. A lot of our talent who have played multiple championships have been the same talent, and they are still very good to make the teams. But we need to see how we can utilize the talent that we have right now while building the next gen of players. So I think we are in a good place right now. We have 3 teams, open age teams going out this year. We've got our mixed team going to Portugal for the World Championship and on beach, which is like a heavily stacked good team. And we've also got an opens team and a women's team going to Asia, which is great for us because both those teams which are going to the Asian Championship have experienced players who have played multiple campaigns earlier, along with a bunch of new fresh legs and young athletes coming into these national team programs. So which kind of sets, that was part of the NTC vision on how can we use what we've utilized, how well we're doing on beach, keep that going in terms of momentum while building a couple of future superstars, to say.
Do you feel that in terms of coaching as well, that there needs to be more people who actually possibly need to step up to undertake such campaigns? Because if I look at the last like 4 or 5 years, I mean, there are only few names which kind of come to mind in terms of rotation, wherein.
Yeah. Our head coaches have been the same 4-5 who have been in rotation, right? But our assistant coaches have been, we've got a lot of assistant coaches coming in, and through that is one that we are hoping to build a base of coaches across the country. Second is with the state championships coming in, which is now finished 3 years of state, and this is going to be the 4th year, was the other place where we wanted to see the opportunity for more coaches to grow in the country, to be able to coach at like sending somebody to a world championship. We want to send somebody who has the experience to be able to, or has done a couple of assistant coach campaigns. We have got a coaching pathway that is there to be a head coach, which requires you to be an assistant coach on a previous national team, or be a coach of a top 8 national domestic team, right? So the opportunity is there for multiple people to apply, but we don't have too many people applying. We have 2-3 applicants for each opportunity, each division, and in that we try to pick the best one that is there, and we are hoping more coaches develop through the state championships and or going as assistant coaches on these campaigns as well. This year we've got Nathan coaching the women's team. He was the appointed coach for a campaign in 2020 which got cancelled due to COVID, but we will get to see Nathan on the national team jersey because he has coached internationally. He's coached ambush at windmills and at Asian Championships, but so that is technically a new head coach, and we've got Praveen, also known as Rocket, coming in as a new head coach on the Mixed Masters team as well. So other than that, fortunately for us, the other coaches have built themselves through experiences and through national campaigns and become better coaches, that when it comes down to picking, it's like they're always one level better, and they can deliver more at that moment. And yeah, but more new coaches are coming through the state championship.
Okay, thank you so much, Alex, for this conversation. I mean, as I started off and I said, because it's something which is so close to your heart, because it's a sport that you're involved in. Although I still have so many questions and there's so much that we can still talk about, especially like from perspective of your personal take about, I know we started off a little bit in terms of getting that experience out, but because that I think will also kind of could have set a good benchmark for like what IU needs to do in terms of streamlining, where the focus could be. But yeah, thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
How's it for you? You enjoy the conversation?
Yeah, it was really nice to, one is to communicate on so much about Ultimate. Always happy to talk about Ultimate. And to talk with somebody who understands the game is definitely more enjoyable. Thanks for that opportunity first. And the more we spoke, some of those points that you raised were good things for me also go and think about, and also probably discuss with the board and on how we can relook at few of those things. And it's important for us to have these conversations like on Ultimate as much as possible, because we can't insulate ourselves away from what is happening. So yeah, in terms of increasing communication, I also get calls directly from a lot of players and leaders on specific issues. It could be accounts, it could be tournaments, and I try and have as many of those conversations as possible just to understand everything else that is happening. But sometimes it is I also don't want it to become the crying baby gets the milk, right? Like I don't want only the loudest voices to be heard, and try and hear more from the committee, more from everyone on what is happening, and then hopefully we together, and we only grow the sport together, and it can't be done in isolation.
Great. All right. Thank you so much, Alex. Yeah.
Thank you.